end zone, underthrown, touchdown, Trey Tucker. To the end zone it goes. Caught! Touchdown, Armon
Benz. Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, and the spot to bet the Bearcats action against the Bowling Green State Falcons this coming weekend, where there is a 50% profit boost for college football games taking place this coming weekend. Get one 50% profit boost token and valid for use on any wager for any college football games taking place on September 6th, which is when the Bearcats are facing the Bowling Green State Falcons. You get a 50% profit boost there, and you can wager on the Bearcats to cover 21.5 points. That's what they're sitting at as a favorite right now, with an over-under hovering around 46.5. I don't know if you're going to want to boost the money line, where Cincinnati is a minus 2,100 favorite. Although if you think Bowling Green's going to pull off the upset, you can get those odds from 10-1 all the way up to 15-1 on the money line, after Bowling Green had a kind of a lowly effort in their week 1 win against Lafayette, 26-7. We'll discuss that game in just a little bit. Got plenty to cover on this week's show right here on Bearcat Blitz, right here on the Believe Network, and we will do all that in just a moment. FanDuel Sportsbook, of course, our presenting sponsor, and you can find all of their odds at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Take advantage of that 50% profit boost from the Bussin' with the Boys, Boostin' with the Boys this weekend. You can also get a 50% profit boost on the Michigan versus Oklahoma matchup as well. Just check out the More Info tab for the full details on those offerings, and make sure to make FanDuel Sportsbook your #1 choice when wagering this college football and college basketball season. We'll be on the hardwood breaking all that down in just a short amount of time. Neil Meyer joining me, Russ Heltman, on this week's Bearcat Blitz. We're going to kind of pick up the miscellaneous odds and ends from the week 1 loss to Nebraska to start this show. Talk about the Bowling Green State matchup as well, preview that game, and give you a prediction. I think Neil and I probably on the same page with UC winning this game. We were in the preseason, and I would imagine nothing has changed, considering UC has kind of gone up the analytic metrics despite losing to Nebraska. The question is, will Cincinnati cover 21.5 points? We'll discuss that at the end of the show. All that coming up on Bearcat Blitz after these messages. It's Bearcat Blitz, presented by the FanDuel Sportsbook. We are airing on the Believe Network, and welcome in my co-host, Neil Meyer from the frontofficenews.com. Check out his work there. And I am Russ Heltman from the Cincinnati Bearcats on SI offerings. Check out our work there at Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. So, Neil, we have the Bearcats 0-1 after the loss to Nebraska this past weekend, 20-17 on Thursday night. Obviously, you broke down the game in the opening episode of this week, but overall, I think one place to kind of move forward and tie up a bow on this matchup is the play of Brendan Sorsby. 13-25, 1 interception, horrible passing the ball, like just flat out horrible. Arguably his worst passing game as a Bearcat, and the biggest reason I would say why Cincinnati was unable to get the job done on Thursday night. But on the flip side, Neil, he goes and posts 96 yards rushing, 95, 96 yards rushing, something like that, 2 touchdowns. Cincinnati runs for over 200 yards total against the top 10 rushing defense in the country last season. And you have Brendan Sorsby end up with a decent Pro Football Focus grade because of that rushing ability, 85.5 running grade, a 46.1 passing grade to even out to around a 69.5 overall, which still ended up being a top 5 grade on Pro Football Focus for the Bearcats offense. The question is, Neil, is this just a bump in the road, the product of Nebraska's secondary maybe being a lot better than we portrayed it to be last week? Or is this a continuation of a troubling trend from last season when Cincinnati saw Brendan Sorsby kind of break down in terms of his mechanics and his passing acumen down the stretch, in large part leading to a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah, and I will say, Russ, I think truly that it was just due to what Nebraska was doing on defense. I mean, you look, he had a couple open throws that he probably should have made. One over the head of Jeff Caldwell. You had Cyrus Allen streaking on a wide open play. If you saw the clip on X, I'm sure there was a lot of plays Brendan Sorsby would have liked back, but those passing numbers would have been boosted if things kind of went well into his favor. I mean, Scott Satterfield mentioned it earlier this week, a couple missed opportunities on the offensive end. You missed Evan Pryor on a screen where if he turns upfield and doesn't turn his head away from that pass from Brendan Sorsby, you might be looking at 60 or 70 extra passing yards in that accolade. So overall, this game could have been swung a lot of different ways, but you can't put this game right onto the play of Brendan Sorsby, right? It wasn't his best game. He even came out and said that he felt like there wasn't a defense that gave him this much trouble since Iowa State. And Iowa State, credit to them. They're a good team. They're top 25 for a reason. And Cincinnati's going to see them in the next couple weeks. But overall, I mean, there's a lot of things that Cincinnati could have done better on Thursday night that would have swung this game, not just on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, turnovers was the reason Cincinnati lost this game, right? It wasn't just the play of Brendan Sorsby. I mean, if you recover that fumble there in the first quarter, that swings momentum. That stops 7 points from Nebraska. If you also come away with that pick six, that would have been pick six from Logan Wilson, that's another momentum boost. But Cincinnati put themselves in position to win this game down the stretch. But there's a couple things I would like to see better for Cincinnati this week. Obviously, you mentioned the rushing game. You got to get those guys at least 15, 20 carries between Tolby Walker and Evan Pryor. I'd like to see that number. They only had a combined 12 carries versus Nebraska. But
We
for
got to
Brendan
have the
Sor-
football to be able to do that.
yeah, and
Can't get
an
out time of
offensive ball
possession 40 minutes to 20
to
minutes again,
20.
which hat off to the defense for being able to withstand almost 25 more snaps played than the Nebraska defense.
Yeah, and that comes into play as well. But for Cincinnati, this next 2 week stretch is gonna be huge for Brendan Sorsby and this offense to find momentum and get this offense kind of moving, because you look at what's next on the schedule. Bowling Green, they're 21.5 point favorites, which the numbers jumped 4 points nearly from when I filmed that podcast on Monday.
Yeah.
So Vegas thinks something else is up, but Cincinnati has not beat Bowling Green all time, so you can't give them the definite win. You never know with these
Yeah, what are they,
programs.
0-4 all time against BG?
0-4 versus
I think we could
BG.
I mean, if they lose this game, Neil, turn the afterburners up on Scott Satterfield's hot seat. You cannot lose this football game any way, shape, or form against a first-year head coach who just took over the job in February and a team that only beat Lafayette in reality 19-7, and they added a special teams return touchdown to make it 26-7. This would be DEFCON 1, Neil, if they lost this football game.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you too, Russ, but you never know. But I know Cincinnati's going to come out there, and if we've seen anything like home openers in the years past, we saw it versus Miami a few years ago. We saw it versus Kennesaw State a few years back. Cincinnati likes to come out and make a statement in their home openers. So hopefully we see that again on Saturday. But for this offense to get going, you got to find a way to get Brendan Sorsby protected and let him kind of sit in the pocket and find his receivers. That's going to be huge. And I think this next 2 weeks is going to be crucial to maybe not only get this offense going, but for Brendan Sorsby to build a little bit more confidence back following the Nebraska performance as Cincinnati heads into Big 12 play here in just a few short weeks.
Yeah, I think it's just I go back to the question I asked Brendan Sorsby in the summer, Neil. And I don't know if you were there in that scrum, but I asked him, what did you do this offseason to improve your mechanics, to improve your passing acumen? And he said nothing. That's what he said. He said he didn't do anything. He said he's leaning on his passing mechanics from baseball and that he's just diving into the playbook. Well, we didn't see much quick hit playbook actions from Brendan Sorsby in this game passing the ball, and his mechanics, Neil, were bad. He overthrew multiple wide open receivers, namely the comeback route that would have been at least 20 yards and a first down that ended up being a third 3 and out and punting the ball away overthrow to Jeff Caldwell at one point in the game It was the worst throw I've seen Brendan Sorsby make maybe in the past calendar year. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, Neil. But then when you say that you haven't worked on your mechanics at all this offseason, which is what I asked, like, what did you do to improve your mechanics? He said nothing in that clip. It just makes me scratch my head and wonder, well, if the mechanics are that sound, Neil, then why are you missing that throw to Jeff Caldwell? Why are you overthrowing 4-5 guys in a game on 25 attempts and end up right around 50% completion rate, less than 50% completion rate, or 13 to 25, just over 50%? It's a little concerning, especially considering, Neil, I mean, Scott Satterfield, they claim that was the strength of the team going into this game for Nebraska, being the secondary. It wasn't the strength of the team really entering the season, and we'll see if that strength really bears out in their next few weeks. But at some point, Neil, we got to see it from Brendan Sorsby as a passer.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. And I think hopefully that is these next 2 weeks, obviously with FCS opponents and a MAC program. So overall, I think hopefully that's the next 2 weeks because Cincinnati's going to need him to be on his A game if they want to have a realistic shot of making it to Dallas, which is the team goal. I mean, we were in the facility earlier this week for the press conferences. Everywhere in that new facility, Russ, they got TVs up there, and their team goals are: one, play with eat, effort, attitude, and toughness.
Yeah.
Two, come ready to play, respect people. Three, I can't remember the third one, but four is go to Dallas. And that's all across the facilities in the Cincinnati new IPF. So, I mean, they still have all their goals in front of them to get to Dallas, but in order for them to get down there, it's going to have to start with Brendan Sorsby on the offensive end. Without him, if he's not on his A game, it could be a long season. But I think personally, I think he locks in the next 2 weeks. He has two good performances versus Bowling Green in Northwestern State and bounces back versus a Kansas team in week 1 on the road. Because let's be honest, Russ, they're not going to be in a more hostile environment this season than what they were in last Thursday night. And I'll be the first to say that that crowd was absurd.
Right.
Like
and credit to Sorsby for not ever letting that environment take him out of the game. I mean, he stayed engaged. He didn't let himself get too overly frustrated. He didn't let himself get caught out of the moment. He took the rushing opportunities when they were there. He led the team in rushing. He had the 2 rushing scores. It just obviously was nowhere near it good enough passing the football. But like when the moments mattered, when the Bearcats kind of needed to hang around, they were able to do that. But we're in year 3 now, Neil, and year 2 of Brendan Sorsby in the same system. It's more than just hanging around time for the Bearcats in these senses. But in the end, Neil, I mean, did you pick them to win that game? I didn't pick them to win that football game. I don't know any human being that picked them to win that football game. You and I picked them to lose and cover, which is exactly what happened in the evening process. And overall, I just think, yes, there are fair criticism that I just lobbied at Brendan Sorsby, but I think 2017, that kind of result, you need to see more impact offensively. But I think if anybody would have said, hey, you're going to lose a 3-point game in a really, like you mentioned, hostile environment, almost 90% Nebraska fans in a neutral environment in the first week of the season, I think most people would take that. Although it's taking that with a little just feels like one got away, Neil, because once again, Cincinnati, according to Parker Fleming at Stats of War on X, had a better net success rate than their opponent in a loss. I think that's happened it happened at least 4 times last year, Neil, and among their 5 losses, 3 to 4 times. And once again, it's happened again. Just the fact that Cincinnati played well enough as a whole, as a team, to win, but the little mistakes and the little moments of key execution just were not there, as they have not been in the entire Satterfield era.
Yeah, and like you mentioned too, I mean, going into that hostile environment, I was actually telling JT and them, I don't think I've been to a lot of road games covering this team. I don't think I've ever been heckled as bad as I've been heckled walking into Arrowhead
That's
Stadium.
Just a media member?
Yeah, me and JT, we all were walking in, and Russ, I kid you not, it was a sea of Nebraska fans. Like, the parking lots around Arrowhead, nothing but
they're on a whole nother level of fan intensity. It's
straight
That's
straight
crazy.
tailgaters anywhere you walked in. Like the media lot, Russ, I kid you not, was right in Narnia of Arrowhead and Nebraska fans tailgating. Like you had to walk through it all. Like I got a video and there was guys spraying sunscreen on Taylor. They're saying, go Huskers to all of us. They saw a Cincinnati tag. They're like, no chance. I was like, dang, guys, like game's 5 hours away. Like you guys are, but props to them. They were liquored up. They were having a good time. I respect it, but Russ, it was 70,000 Nebraska fans out there, to
Yeah.
say the least. Like out of the 73,000, probably 70,000 were Nebraska fans. So hostile environments shouldn't be an issue for Cincinnati this year because, like I said, you're not going to go onto the road to a maybe Iowa State gives you that kind of matchup, that kind of intensity, but for Cincinnati, you're not going to see 73,000 fans out at Kansas in week 4. You're not. But
No. And
they should
Neil,
have the
one other
hostile.
positive here that was an issue in the prior seasons under Satterfield is discipline. I mean, outside of the crowd noise issues with the false
And,
starts, they
and that,
only
those were
had
the
false
only
start
penalties.
penalties. Those are the only
Those were the
penalties
only
they had.
penalties. And unfortunately, those penalties came
Played
at
a huge played a
played a
huge
huge
role.
role and came at the worst times because Russ, you look at every penalty, every
It's,
false start, it was third and 3 or shorter.
yeah, it was
So
third
I
and
mean,
four, third and four, third and 9, and third and 2. Just the worst possible spots to get false
yeah.
starts.
And that's what happens when you go to a silence cadence. Like if you watched the film, like watch the game back, Tarantayo had to completely get in his stance and turn left and flash his hand to Gavin and say, "Hey, this is when we're snapping the football."
And
Which
you
I
know
mean,
what? This is just like this is where the administration kind of failed the football team in a sense here, Neil. They really did. I mean, I get it. You want to maximize the amount of dollars possible that your game is going to generate. And if you move the game to Kansas City, you're obviously going to be able to fill the stadium a lot easier with Nebraska fans, all that stuff. And there's other reasons why they moved the game as well. But it did not do Cincinnati any favors holding this game at Arrowhead Stadium as opposed to Lucas Oil Stadium where it was originally scheduled as of a couple of years ago. And now your program is 0-1, maybe because of just that decision. If this game is played at Nippert Stadium, Neil, I am fully convinced that UC wins this football game. If they're playing this game at Lucas Oil Stadium, I think they win by a field goal right at the end. And if they're playing, like I mentioned, if they're playing at home, I would have picked them to win this football game. But the environment played a factor in my decision as well. And it's just not that Scott Satterfield didn't say anything directly, like calling out the administration or anything like that, but you could see the frustration on his face talking about the environment and just the fact that this is going to get looked as a neutral site, but it was anything but a neutral site matchup.
yeah, and I mean, I know we were kind of talking about it earlier this week. I know I talked about it earlier this week. It essentially comes down to how much does a win cost in college football. That's essentially what this game was, right?
Right, because
Obviously,
Nebraska did not play well. Like we just mentioned, UC beat them in net success rate. Dylan Raiola was completely shut down as we get into kind of the trenches talk about all this. Dylan Raiola was completely shut down. Cincinnati, I don't believe, gave up any sacks in the game. No, 0
mm-mm.
sacks allowed, one quarterback hit allowed on Brendan Sorsby. So the pass protection was there for him to make plays with his feet and with his arm. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they couldn't run the football at all, Neil, because of that big behemoth in the middle, Dante Corleone. He was sucking up all of the interior gaps. They ran the ball 30 times for here we
I
go,
think they
30
averaged 3 yards a carry.
36 times, 110 yards, 3.1 yards per carry. I mean, they had nothing going on the ground. And then through the air, Dylan Raiola was efficient, 33 of 42, 79% completion rate, but only 243 yards and the 2 touchdowns, which the 2 touchdowns kind of displayed some maybe matchup issues with the secondary, Neil, that we talked about last week, the height disadvantage that they had against
Well,
Nebraska. That was clear.
The one touchdown came on 4th and 2 in Cincinnati's defense in that one. You're trying to stop the run game because you're at the 2 yard line. Like you
Right.
loaded the box and the guy Dane Key just got behind Jake Golday. That was all that one was.
Right. So like the defense played really, really well. I'm
I
really
thought
impressed
defense
with the defense.
played their butts off. I thought that was the best performance we have seen from a Cincinnati defense in the last 2 years.
That it was. That's kind of the odds and ends on the Nebraska game. I think overall, we're taking positives from this game. Brendan Sorsby has to be better. And if Brendan Sorsby can consistently just be average as a passer and bring that elite rushing ability to the table every week and mix it in with the rest of this team, they're going to be a bowl outfit. It just comes down to those key execution moments. And we'll see if they can clean that up this coming week against Bowling Green, which we will preview in just a few moments. Before then, we'll tell you about FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, where the Cincinnati Bearcats will check in on their current conference championship odds. Guessing they went down because of that loss. Oh, not really. 30-1 on the FanDuel Sportsbook to win the Big 12 right now, just ahead of UCF, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. Head to America's #1 sportsbook to make your wager on the Bearcats to win the Big 12 and make other wagers on all kinds of sports across the FanDuel Sportsbook, including NFL action getting started tonight with the Philadelphia Eagles beginning their Super Bowl title defense against the Micah Parsons list now Dallas Cowboys. So, Neil, we have the Bowling Green State Falcons coming to town. We'll preview that in just a moment. Eddie George and the Bowling Green State Falcons coming to Nippert Stadium on Saturday afternoon for a 3:30 kickoff. Cincinnati is currently roughly a 21.5-point favorite in this game, a massive favorite to win the contest on ESPN's Football Power Index, 87.2% chance to win, and over-under sitting at 46.5, and Bowling Green is a 10-1 underdog to pull off what would be this would be the worst loss of the Scott Satterfield era. I mean, just there is no business for Cincinnati to even let this game be within single digits, let alone suffer an L in the home opener of the 2025-26 season, or it's just the 2025 season. Neil, Drew Pine, the starting quarterback for the Bowling Green State Falcons. They obviously had the coaching turnover with Scott Loeffler leaving for the NFL late in the offseason window, like right around February after the transfer portal had already kind of wrapped up all that stuff. Bowling Green State considered a top 5 team in the MAC, Neil, but not a top 100 team in the country. 108th on Football Power Index, and they are currently one of the worst offenses in the entire country. 8.1 offensive efficiency ranking in Neil. That sits at 127th nationally. I don't know how this team's getting the 15 points, 17 points. I don't know how they're scoring 2 touchdowns. I could see them maybe scoring 1 and maybe getting to double digits, but this is just a complete mismatch, especially with how healthy UC's defense is, how well they played against a much stronger opponent in Nebraska this past weekend. There's just nothing that Bowling Green brings to the table that's really going to scare you. I mean, offensively, they have quarterback Drew Pine at the helm. He was 12 for 18, 109 yards, 6.1 yards per attempt last game. Neil, that was good for a 13.4 QBR on ESPN. What that means is that kind of performance is projected to win you a college football game 13.4% of the time. Terrible. A terrible outing by Drew Pine, even in the win. And there's nothing to suggest this guy is going to wow anybody over the 60-minute timeline of this game. 101 total quarterback rating in 2023 at Arizona State on 49 attempts, and 104.6 quarterback rating on 82 attempts at Missouri last year. People remember him from his time starting for Notre Dame in 2022 when he performed pretty decent. 8 yards per attempt, 22-6 touchdown interception ratio, and a whopping 155.3 rating. But Neil, the 6-foot, 200-pound senior, has completely fallen off a cliff since then. And there's just, I mean, I'll give my score prediction right now, 38-10 Bearcats. I just don't see any way that Bowling Green keeps this close with how much turnover they've had on their roster, how new this coaching staff is, and what they showed us in week 1, putting up 19 points offensively against FCS Lafayette, who went 6-6 in the FCS last season. Big win for the Bearcats.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you too, Russ. I do think this will be a big win for Cincinnati because if you look back at their game versus Nebraska, I don't think Bowling Green's going to come in here and put up 25, 30 points. I don't see that happening. If Cincinnati's defense played like how they played versus Nebraska, I don't think Bowling Green gets higher than maybe 10, 14 points tops. And that'll even be kind of a stretch because one thing Bowling Green does well is special teams. and that's where they've scored opening touchdowns in their season opener last 2 games. They're a good team in that aspect, but overall, if Cincinnati special teams plays like how they played the other night, Nebraska's not getting any free points in that aspect. So overall, and I think for Cincinnati as well, you talk about the special teams, if they can limit that, but people also might remember Drew Pine started versus Cincinnati back in 2021, and Cincinnati just made his life actual pure like he was struggling. 9 for 22 with 143 yards, a sack and an interception. So I mean Drew Pine, he's familiar with Cincinnati, but that was a Cincinnati look that had a completely different look on the defensive side of the ball. So Drew Pine's been around the block to say the least. I mean, you look around, he started at Notre Dame in 2020, and we're in 2025, and this guy's still got 2 years of eligibility left after this season and next year. So it's
Keep
crazy
cashing the
landscape.
checks, Drew. Cash them while you can, buddy.
Cash them while you can, man. Cash them while you can. Hey, no judgment on it, because if I was in his position, hey, I'd be milking those checks
I hate when
too,
people are
but
like, go get a job. It's like, they got a job. These are jobs. It's a pretty intense job, and they're getting paid pretty handsomely for it.
A great resume on Indeed or LinkedIn, whatever might be coming for him. He's got a long resume. 7-year quarterback. He's been around Notre Dame, Arizona State, started at Missouri a couple games. But I don't think Cincinnati has any difficulties with Drew Pine this week. He's not going to be your quarterback who flushes the pocket and gets out and uses his legs. He's not. He had 4 carries for Cincinnati back in 2021 for 12 yards. I don't think that happens here again. So, and this is where it could be a good test for Cincinnati's defense, right? I thought they played very stout the other night versus Nebraska. I thought the secondary had a lot of steps of improvement, great tackling. I didn't think the secondary really got beat, and I really liked what I saw from the defensive line. So Cincinnati plays like that. I don't think Bowling Green scores more than 10 points. I'm going 41-7 in favor of the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Yeah, as you can see, Neil and I both think the Bearcats cover this game on Saturday afternoon. Just for fun, what is the Bowling Green point total set at on FanDuel Sportsbook? Let's go ahead and just take a gander there real quick. Let's see. BGSU total points, 12.5 it is set at, Neil. Yep, sounds about right. 12.5 points. I don't think I would touch that, because you could get a touchdown, 2 field goals, and then you're just like, are you kidding me? They won 41-13, but I still lost my bet. I don't know if I would endorse that at 12.5. Maybe if it creeps up to 13.5 or 14.5, get past that key number, get another look at the Bowling Green State total. But obviously, 12.5 points for a reason. If the Bearcats lose this football game, DEFCON 1. And obviously, neither of us expect that to happen. Should be roll wins over the next 2 weeks, get the passing game on track. Obviously, this is a brand new passing attack, and that has to be said as well for Brendan Sorsby. You can't expect everything to necessarily go right in game 1. You'd like to expect some things to go right, which didn't really happen at all in game 1 passing wise, but plenty of time to figure that out over the next couple of weeks before heading to another hostile environment in Kansas to take on Jalen Daniels and the Kansas Jayhawks to open Big 12 play. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Heltman. A fun, extended conversation about Cincinnati Bearcats football here, and we'll have you covered after the Bowling Green State action on Saturday, and we will hit you with 2 shows again next week as the season rolls along in college football. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Heltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Have a great weekend, everybody.
It's a deep shot. He's got Tyler Scott, and he's into open space.